What the hell is going on with Pascal Siakam? What's going on with this team after Fred VanVleet left?
In my recent mailbag, I did a two-part mailbag, and the first question I answered was, "What are the Raptors doing?" So,
Well, that's not a fair
I
question. You can't answer that.
well, I mean,
Who could?
yeah, I tried, and I guess I'll somewhat steal from myself is that Masai Ujiri has this reputation, and I think largely because of the Carmelo Anthony trades and the Kawhi Leonard trade, as like this huge deal maker, this guy who really swings big. And certainly you cannot, and I'm not trying to take those trades away from him. They were, landmark deals that, we can fairly say really worked out for his teams at the time. I also think they were somewhat perfect moment trades. They were presented at a time where the status quo was no longer really an option. Obviously, Carmelo was forcing his way out of Denver. He was going into free agency. This was happening whether he liked it or not. And to in Masai Ujiri's advantage, Carmelo told him as much, which is, which was very useful at the time for him. With a little less cut and dry with the DeMar DeRozan Kawhi Leonard trade, but the Raptors had made the playoffs 5 straight years. In the prior 3 years, they had lost to Cleveland with LeBron James 3 straight years, 12-2 in games. And that with two straight sweeps. Now, LeBron James had left for Los Angeles. You could say, well, why not one more try without LeBron in the conference? But there were some pretty clear limitations for that version of the Raptors team. And before Masai Ujiri considered tearing it down, he's like, why don't we take a chance with this guy who is, all respect to DeMar, a clear, at his best is a championship difference maker, which he obviously ended up being. Other than that, I would say Masai Ujiri is like a conservative opportunist. He is
That's
very
good.
patient, sometimes to a fault, sometimes not. Sometimes waiting is absolutely the right thing to do. But I think we've got to the place where analysis is maybe paralysis. I'm sure that's not how they would describe it, but last and according to Shams Charania's report, like there haven't been serious negotiations with Pascal Siakam on a max extension, which would basically be 4 years between 190 and 220 million, depending what happens with the cap next year. But they also haven't been especially close on a trade with anybody. There have been talks, but nothing super concrete. And I think, that all happened around the trade deadline. And I think, this isn't going to be a situation where there is this is my read on it now, where there's a perfect solution available. They're not going to get the, Donovan Mitchell package for Pascal Siakam 1 year ahead of free agency for any number of reasons. And Pascal Siakam's a two-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA player, between one of the 15 and 30 best players in the league, let's say. He's a max guy. Like those guys get paid max contracts. So it's not like even if you're able to negotiate him down a little bit, like you're basically looking at the max. So to me, it's almost a binary decision. And even if you're giving him the max to trade him later, and maybe that's what they're debating is trading him now versus signing him, and maybe he gets a little bit more value. But so I think that's the decision they're trying to make right now. And of course, it's the end of August or almost the end of August, and it's just a weird time to try and make that trade. So if I had to bet, I will say this ends in a extension before the season. I don't feel good about that bet, and that leads to a cascade, and that's where the urgency should come from, because OG Anunoby is a free agent next year. Gary Trent, or assuming he declines his player option, which as long as he's not injured, he will decline that option. Gary Trent will be an unrestricted free agent. Scotty Barnes will be rookie extension eligible after next season. Like, they have a lot of big questions coming, and Siakam is just the start of it.